Why does it say pepper jam when there is no pepper jam?
So this Samsung refrigerator, as you can see, there it is right up there in the top right corner. This is a Samsung, and it's got the built-in ice maker and cold water dispenser and so forth. And it's the one with the ice maker in the top left corner here. It's just horrible, and it freezes up and you can't get ice out of it. I'm gonna show you how you can defrost this and fix it. It's only temporary. It may last for a couple weeks. You may get lucky and it may last for a month. It really matters on how many times you open the refrigerator and how many hot items you put in your fridge that let the humidity settle up to the top here and freeze. What we need to do is we need to basically take out the ice tray and everything out of there. And when I do that, well, as you can hear, it's all frozen up. When you take that out, look at that. It's just a big chunk of ice. See how it freezes up there in the top right? All the ice just kind of starts freezing up and it just becomes one huge ice cube. And sadly, I defrosted this and did everything on this one about a month ago. So we're back into just the same horrible position. But I'm really getting tired of doing this once every couple weeks. But I just want to make sure if there's even a person out there on the planet that has a Samsung refrigerator that hasn't seen this video, well, you know, hopefully this will help them. I do want to say up front though, if you are not a handy person or you do not feel like you can do work on your refrigerator, I am in no way an appliance expert or anything, but I am capable of fixing things on my own. That's why I do this. But if you are not someone that feels comfortable digging into this, watch the whole video, make sure it's something that you think you can do. But if it's not, please don't tear up your refrigerator. Hire someone who can fix it. So to get started on the fix, you have to press this top left button and the middle right button. Now, different fridges may have different buttons, labels on the different buttons, but it usually is the top left and the middle right, and you have to push those both at the same time. And when you do that, you hold them for 10 seconds and it will put you into like this control panel or control screen where you can flip through different things you need your fridge to do. So I'm gonna press the freezer and the lighting button at the same time. All right, so once you do that, it's gonna turn black and make a sound. I didn't catch that, but then you just press this button here to flip through the different screens. Now FD, forced defrost, is the one you want to choose. And sadly, it will continue beeping like this the entire time. But the beeping is telling you it is doing the forced defrost, which is defrosting the cooling element that goes through there. It's defrosting that so the ice on that melts. So you have to do this step if it's a huge chunk of ice, and I'll show you why as I take this apart. Ours is so frozen up and such a huge chunk of ice. As like I said, you can see up in here, it's just completely frozen all inside of here. And I've done this so many times, I already know it's just gonna be one big chunk of ice. Now, if yours isn't frozen up this bad and you're just kind of getting the ice kind of sticking, then you may be able to do what I just did and it will defrost this, and that's all you gotta do. You don't have to take it out, you don't have to do anything. But when it gets chunked up like this and it becomes such a huge chunk of ice, I've got to take this whole ice maker out to fix this. Now there's a cooling element that's in here that creates the ice and gets really cold. You have to defrost that cooling element to even get this ice maker out. It's really easy to take this out, but not if the cooling element is froze over like this. So I'm gonna have to let this continue for a while to at least get it to a point where this is starting to melt. And then I'm gonna show you how you take the whole ice maker out, get all the ice and everything off of it, cleaned out, and then put back in fresh, so you get the longest amount of time before this happens again. So I want to add also, this is going to defrost, this is going to start melting. You want to pull the entire ice maker tray out like I've already done, but you're going to want to probably put a towel down here because this is going to start melting and water is going to start dripping down. And if you don't have something down here that soaks up that water, it's just going to drip down into your fridge. So I'm going to stuff a towel in here so that way it will capture that water as it's defrosting. All right, I'm not saying to actually do this, but I like to hurry the process along a little bit. So after about 5, maybe 10 minutes of it beeping, I come in here and then I try to reach in and break these pieces off by hand. I was able to come in and pretty much clear this whole section out. So if yours isn't really badly clogged, this might be all you need to do. Defrost it for 10, 15 minutes and then come break out all the obstructions and then you might be okay. As you can see here, I put the towel down here to catch it, but ours was massively blocked, so I pulled all the pieces off by hand, cracked them. I even used a butter knife to come in here and help me out, but I don't recommend any of this. Do that at your own risk, because you can cut your hands on the ice and all that. Anyways, but I did that to hurry it along because I know, since I've done this so many times, there's a big block of ice inside of here. So I'm gonna continue to let this thing beep for a little bit. I'm gonna come in here, take these screws and everything out and take this apart and pull it. But this is just a quick tip here that I wanted to add, that if yours isn't really bad, this might be all you need to do. I'm gonna go ahead and get a screwdriver and we're gonna start taking this thing apart. All right, so this is what I did to start. There is a screw that goes into this. This is actually pushed up. And as you can see, there's a screw hole here, and then there's a screw hole there. This screw holds these two together. So if it's up there, they hold them together. Now, there's also a little clip here, you see here on the left. So what you have to do is you take this screw out, it's a Phillips head screw, and then you get a flathead screwdriver, or me, I just used the butter knife that I was using to, hack out all the ice that was in here. And you have to push this to the right. Now don't go too crazy, you don't want to break it, but you have to push it to the right enough to get past this little tab here, and then this will fold down. So up in here is the cooling element. If you see it, it's that piece up there that I'm pointing at. And the defroster turned off as soon as I dropped this down. I guess it detected it was defrosted or whatever, and as you can see up there, it's starting to build ice up on it again from the frost. That element there has to come down so you can pull this whole thing out. Now, again, if you don't feel comfortable, because that right there, that element could damage your entire refrigerator if you mess that element up. Do not mess up that element. Do not bend it too hard. Do not puncture it, anything. So if you don't feel comfortable doing this, just hire somebody to do this. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to lower that element down enough where I can pull the entire ice maker out. Because once that element's down, it's as simple as unhooking this connector here, and then it's, push that tab and the whole thing comes out. I'm going to show you what it looks like. So if you look on the top there, there's metal fins, and that cooling element goes around the metal fins up there, and that's what creates that whole plate that makes ice for you. So you have to get that element below those metal fins, so that way when you go to pull this thing out, nothing catches on that element. So that's why I was saying about halfway down, but essentially what you're really doing is you're trying to make sure those fins up there on that metal element do not hit your cooling element. And this is somewhat flexible. You can, I don't know if you can see me moving it in there, but you can move it, but you just don't want to try to push it like all the way down to the bottom. That's too far. Just enough down to clear those fins there, you'll be good. Then next, I've got to come and take off this Phillips head screw, because this wire that's here plugs in down here behind this plastic piece. And then we're going to be ready to pull this whole thing out. You just push that tab in right there as you're pulling the whole thing out, and it should just come out. Now, it may be stubborn if you're dealing with it like mine here. It's probably going to be stubborn because it's probably a huge chunk of ice in there. But it will come out. You just kind of have to work it a little bit. All right, so it took a little bit for me to actually get this pulled forward, but it did it. I was able to finally get it pulled forward. So there's just this tab right here. This tab has to go down because there's a slot in the ceiling there, and this tab has to go down to let it, release up there. And then what I did is I grabbed, there's like a, little piece here that you can put your hand behind, and I just kept pulling and wiggling and pulling until that ice finally let go. Now again, you have to make sure that this isn't hanging up. And I'll try to give you a better shot. So it's ready to go. Pull it forward and then slowly pull it out. Ice pieces are gonna come out with it. Water is gonna be a mess everywhere. And now it's out. And as you can see, there's just a big old chunk of ice back there above the cooling element. So I'm gonna come in here first, and I'm gonna clean all of that ice out, and I'm gonna let it thaw. I might even put it on defrost again, just to let everything thaw out well. I'm gonna pull the rag out, clean up any water, anything in there, and just make this nice and clean. Now I have this here at the sink, and as you can see, it's pouring water out of here. Chunks of ice have been falling out. There was ice stuck up in here that fell out. So I'm gonna clean this also out really well. Just spray it with water, clean it out if you've got big chunks of ice and everything in there, just so when I go to put it back in, it doesn't have, ice already on it to start the problem early. So, and that's it. You clean this thing up really good, and then we'll put it all back together. All right, and now once you've got it all cleaned out, everything looks good, wipe it out, get all the water out of there, it actually goes back together really easy. It's all defrosted and everything here. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna slide it in, and then you gotta make sure you go above that cooling element, and then you can just slide it right over. As you can see, it's gonna be real close to the top, so you just take it easy, don't mess up that cooling element, but you just slide it back in. So you push it in enough like this, you make sure it clears the cooling element that's there, and then at this point there's gonna be some kind of wiggling it to get it in just right, and when you push it in, it should snap in to the little groove right here. So you just push it past this little opening section here, then it should go up more. You push it all the way against the ceiling, and then it should slide and snap in. So I had to put the camera down because it did take both hands. I grabbed one hand on this and then one hand on this down here on the bottom to push it in. The key here though is once it clears this little ledge here, right after it clears, the whole ice maker needs to go all the way up. If you start trying to push it in too far and then you push it up, there are some clips up here. You'll see them when you take it out. There's little black clips up there. This has to go into those clips, and the only way to do it is if it's pushed against this plastic piece here, and then you slide it forward. So now I'm going to push this cooling element, and be careful because if it's not defrosting, it's going to be cold, and if you put your hands on there for too long, it will maybe cause frostbite. I don't know, but you should also be able to just push this up and it will push that cooling element up there. But I always just push it up a little bit by hand, and then I push this up all the way to snap it in. And as you can see here, it's snapped into place right here. Then on this side, I push it up nice and tight as I'm putting that screw in. So that way it's pushing that element up as good as it can. Then of course we have to rehook this wire into this connector, and then we put the plastic piece back on here, and then we put the ice tray back in. So I'm gonna get this thing all screwed back in. And now we are back in business. Of course, be gentle with it. Again, don't mess up that cooling element that's in there. You'll destroy your fridge. But at this point, now we can put the ice tray in there. And of course, it's a great time to clean out your ice tray. These sometimes can get like buildup inside of them and everything. It's a great time to clean it out. But now you just push it back in and it should start making ice. But that's it. That is exactly why I will never, ever, ever buy another Samsung refrigerator ever. They haven't come out with a good fix for this. I don't even know if they've acknowledged it's a big problem. And this probably started within 6 months to a year having this problem. Now every single month or less, I get to do this wonderful process just so we have ice. Hope this information was helpful. Thank you very much for watching. Y'all take care.